Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, February 16th. We are exactly 1 week away from our Connect to Careers event, as well as we have an upcoming class here on Thursday, where you will be mostly just looking at this particular video and preparing for the career fair. So this week, as far as the lecture is concerned, I really only want to go through one major component, which is the BEO, the banquet event order, but this can be used for any event, as well as going through a little bit about C2C, what to expect, what you need to know, and then we will go through the test review. So as this is week 5, this will be the last lesson that we will actually have before you go into your test. Next week, I do not have a class scheduled for you because my expectation of you is that you'll be going to the event in lieu of class. So there won't be anything posted. On Monday, I'll just put up some new stuff reminding you about the event and how it's happening and the assignment and the things that you need to do. So a couple learning objectives is that we want to make sure we have some connections between what our classroom is talking about and how it may relate to our actual event, Connect to Careers. As an update, we are currently at 32 employers. So I think I posted something on Monday. Since then, Raleigh Resort, Jazz Aviation, and one other, which I can't remember off the top of my head, has signed up. That's probably where we're capping it off. Like I've shown you maybe in some classes, that it takes some background work. So really, maybe they can sign up until this Friday. After that point, there won't be enough time to get them set up within the system. Just so you know, we also have an employer training tomorrow. While you will most likely not be a part of that training, I am going to video record it, and I'll just post it up for you guys to take a look at, and to see how the employers are moving throughout the system. It'll give you an idea of what they're doing. So this will also give you the background look on how employers prepare for an event like this, as well as give you maybe a little bit of an advantage as far as what they're looking for in some current students. So a BEO. So a BEO is a contract that outlines every detail of an event. It is like a critical path or a blueprint. So it's one central document that we use. On there, it will have all of the details. So this could be food and beverage. This could be the accommodations and where they're staying and how they check in. It could be any of the events that they're having within the larger event. So if they're having a couple dinners or breakfasts or lunches, are they having a social event, a meet and greet, those kind of things. So this could also be all the audio, visual, the room setup, staffing requirements. Literally every moving piece of an event is in a BEO. As a person potentially working in a hotel and helping run these events, reading a BEO will become one of those things that you do often. Like in financial management, they probably talk about P&L statements a lot, so profit and loss statements. And as a manager or owner, you'll read those a lot. This is similar for the event industry. It's usually grouped into some subheadings, as well as there might be different departments. So if you are just the banquet manager, you might not worry about the accommodation. That's more of the front desk. So there might be a lot of moving pieces with a lot of different managers on board. It also has an itemized list of costs that we will need to pay, or costs that we will need to accrue, and then that way that we know what we should be charging the people who are in an event. So I am doing something here. Whoops. So who uses BEOs is hotels, conference and convention centers, of course, restaurants, and of course wedding venues. Now the thing about many of the places that we work at, our hotels or our resorts are also all of these. Our resorts are restaurants, they are convention and conference centers, and they are wedding venues. So, this program is very unique. There is not another program in Ontario like this. All the other ones are either called hotel management or food and beverage management, and they talk about hotels, but we tackle the importance of these resort properties. Because these resort properties are not your inner city urban hotels. They are not one and the same. We are located in wonderful, beautiful locations, geographically rare locations that have so many moving parts and such demand for. The college and myself feel like there is a full demand for having education solely based not only hotels but resorts. So to give you an idea of why you have signed up for this hotel resort training and why this might set you aside or be the differentiator between you and another hospitality grad, that is it. So this is probably very hard to see, but this is for a banquet event order. So this is for a cloud computing applications company. But that's not the point. So this is a person that would say, hey, I need to have this meeting. I want to use your destination. So they're going to be using your destination, which is I can't see it off the top of my head. My God, I'm going blind. The executive conference and an event center, the Gleacher. So here you'll get an idea of what's going on. Yes, it'll have all the phone numbers and the event data and the date and all the people that are working within. It'll also have the bookings. So they're booking for the entirety of the day from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., 8 or 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. All of these different areas in which they'll be using. So some are going to be used for a meeting, some are going to be for interviews, some are general sessions or plenary sessions. They give you an idea of how much the costs are, as well as they have a couple breakout rooms as well. So they have some exhibits happening, they have a lunch break, and then just a regular break. So it looks like they have 6 different moving rooms and parts that they all need set up in a particular way. This is the food that they'll have for the continental breakfast as well as the 10 a.m. break. Now, the only thing that I can obviously see off the top of my head is that this says continental breakfast. This is a lunch buffet. So this doesn't seem to really match exactly what's going on here. Great example, Steve. But otherwise, it really tells you how all the breakdown is. They need 5 by 16 tables with 8 chairs, and the instructional pieces as well as this is when it needs to be set up by, this is how you're going to take it down. And the thing about BEOs is that some of these rooms might not actually be used only once, but they might be used for a breakfast, and then you break it down and set it up for lunch, and you break it down and set it up for dinner, and that could change all the different steps and directions. So some of the things that are included, which we've already spoken about, is all of the data and information about who is the actual BEO for, the dates, the setup times, the location, client information. You also want to include in the food and beverage, the audio visual. So this is, do they need microphones? Do they need to have some sort of PowerPoint presentation? What kind of decor do you need? Now, BEOs are not really that much different from what a wedding agenda might look like. So you have all very similar items. You might not have these breakout rooms and company rooms that are needed, but instead you'll have a lot more accommodation information as well as a lot more to do with decor and a schedule of events. So the order of events or the schedule of events is the breakdown of all of these individual items. It is the hotel resort version of a production schedule or a visitor's itinerary. So it's most commonly included on BEOs for private functions, such as weddings, then on BEOs for corporate, unless there's some sort of gala. And the order of events will include everything from the introduction to the bridal party, to the cutting of the cake, to the opening and closing of the bar. So let's take a look at food and beverage arrangements. So food and beverage is usually included in all of these. So unless you're having a 1-hour meeting, for the most part, you will want to provide at the very least a light refreshment. Coffee, tea, water, juice, whatever it might be. Now, if you get into larger ones where you're having 3 or 4 meals, even on some of our field trips, you may remember in the first year, we had lunches every day at Blue Mountain, but then we also had dinners and breakfasts, and it was just very detailed of exactly how things need to be set up and where they need to be set. So every item at a buffet would have its own station and a position. The venue would intend to address the needs of all the customers, so we'd have to find out who is vegetarian, who is vegan, what kind of allergies or special requirements or religious requirements do people have. And as you probably know, this can get very complex and convoluted, and you can have 8 or 9 different styles of requirements for someone to eat, and which means that you have to 8 or 9 different styles of dishes. It can become also costly. Service times, special items regarding service, such as do we want a wine service to happen at the beginning. Then they'll have a breakdown of all the food prices as well as the alcohol and the list and brands that are available for them. Each menu should be listed out in order as they are served, so appetizers, dinners, and dessert, and coffee. And of course, as we spoke before, you would have your vegetarian options and children's menus as well, and all these special dietary requests. On the right-hand side, the kosher, halal, celiac, allergies, these are all some of the things that we should be looking at and understanding that it can get quite complex. And there may be times where you cannot guarantee things. So as an example, if somebody's allergic to garlic, you say, okay, we will do our best, but we have garlic in our kitchens, we have garlic in our sauces, we will try to not touch anything for your particular meal that has garlic included in it, but the chances are that, there might be. So do not make a guarantee that we can 100% serve no garlic to you. Rather, it'll be, we will do our best. We do not believe that we will serve you anything with garlic, but if it is so severe, I do recommend maybe bringing something yourself. You gotta also watch out for yourself. You gotta watch out for your company, and we can't promise the moon and the sun when that's not possible. Room arrangement. So BEOs should also specially outline the entire room setup. So how the rooms will look. So as we looked at it a little bit already. Was it classroom? Is it theater? Is it boardroom with a U? Is it boardroom with a square? These are all different options of room setups. The number of seats per table. A table of 8 with a specific round is very comfortable. If you make it a table of 10, it's okay if you're not eating dinner. If you make it a table of 12, that same table, now people can't even write or do anything like that. So it's also very dependent on what the activity is. With dinners come a lot of side plates and glasses and cutlery, and 8 should be a maximum. If you're just sitting there and having a round table conversation, networking, 10 or 12 is very doable. So you got to think about that. You want to look at the placement of different food stations. So if it's a buffet, where's the buffet located? Is it somewhat central? Does it have a very logical flow to, where to start and where it ends? The location of bars. So some people have located bars very close and convenient to many of the guests. Other people have decided that we don't want to encourage over drinking, so we are going to locate our bar in a rather inconvenient and out of the way place. And then that way we'll actually slow down some of the consumption. So it's one of those things that, depending on your experience with this and what kind of group you may have, you may want to change these locations to help satisfy some of those risk management items. So we've talked about a little bit of the table setup. So the serpentines or rounds or semi-rounds, rectangular, long. A lot of the places are limited. They don't have 6 different styles of table. If you look in the GDR, we have rectangles and some ones that are more squares, and then we also have a couple rounds that we can pull out should we need. But they're generally all square or rectangles. Now the good thing about GDR is because those squares and rectangles, we can combine them to make larger ones. But that's really about it. And then we also have to determine what kind of style of service. Now, this is all your GDR service course that we talked about this. What is English? What is banquet style? What is plated? So I won't need to go through those, hopefully, with you. So some great things about sit-down service is they actually take up less space because you don't need the big buffet tables and people aren't getting up and down. It's actually a safer way to serve as well if you feel like there's trip hazards, there's elderly, there's disabled, or there's a consumption of a lot of alcohol. It is more formal. There's more staff that is required, but you may also control the meal size, whereas you eat what we give you versus you can go out to a buffet and eat the most expensive item and be very wasteful in how you approach it. So it's lobster, and they grab 10 lobsters on a plate and eat 2 of them. And some people will do that. There is also a variety of different styles that you can offer when you do have a sit-down service. The next is buffet. So advantages of a buffet is that you have lots of selection. It requires fewer staff, and it's quite simple as far as the setup goes. So you just basically set it all up, you open it up, and you ensure that all of the dishes are full and able to be eaten. Now, some of the disadvantage of this is that you lose control of portion size. So often what we do in buffets is that we start with the breads, the appetizers, and a lot of the starches. The idea is that we want to fill up their plates fairly substantially, so when they get to the higher, more expensive items, proteins, meats, and desserts, then at that point they don't have a whole lot of room. So you will notice that is also how it's done. You'll also notice at the end of the buffet table is usually where the majority of the hot dishes are. And most times that end is also the one that's located closest to the kitchen. Again, we got to think about, a lot of these chefs and servers bringing out these really hot dishes full of food and ensuring that they're not crossing paths with a lot of people. So as far as the setup goes, there is a specific way in where you put your buffet tables and how you should order it. Receptions happen often. It's usually the beginning of an event. You'll also have a reception at the beginning of the wedding. It's a non-formal way to network and socialize with some of the participants and get to know people. Often when people go to these larger networking events or conventions or conferences, they have a bit of nervousness. They might not know that many people. Maybe they're the only one from their particular company that has come, or only a few of them. So this is just really a very low-key, casual, have a glass of wine or a coffee or a juice or a tea, walk around, have a couple appetizers, and then just kind of get to know people. So as a meeting planner, a current trend is reduce alcohol consumption. The cost and liability is really always an issue, and we've talked about this. Some people can't be trusted to operate professionally on their own. So we have to limit some of those factors. So, offering them as they walk in the door a single glass of sparkling wine or a single beer or an option like that. That's why everyone gets one drink, but there's no bar in which they can go to. There's a lot of different ways that we can do this. Often during weddings, they close the bar and they allow you to drink the wine on the table, but that is it. So people aren't going up throughout the wedding and the speeches, not only over consuming, but causing a bit of a disruption during that time. AV and outdoor vendors. So AV is the visual arrangements. So sometimes this will be on a BEO and it could be a DJ. Often what happens is that we do contract this out to third parties because we're not sound engineers. We are not. We'll have the basics. We'll have speakers, we'll have a computer, or at least an area that you can plug in a laptop, and then we'll have a basic screen. But if they want something more or more extensive, that is when we will usually contract this out to a third party. Now, the great thing about that is that we don't have the initial investment of buying all that equipment, plus having that trained person on staff. And we don't want to carry that trained person on staff for the weekends we have 6 months a year only on, or the weddings we have only on the weekends. So we contract it out, and often what we do is that we add on a little bit ourselves. So let's say they cost $1,000 for 3 hours, and what we're going to be doing is that we'll charge the consumer or the participant $1,250. So we'll make a little bit on top. We're not leaving any money on the table, as they say, but then also the other person gets some, and we're also not ripping anyone off. So that's a great way of us doing that. It also says outside vendors. So this can happen as well, especially with a lot of outside weddings, and people love having outside weddings. And I've seen it where they just bring in food trucks and they bring in all kinds of other breweries with their own kind of setups, and this works well as opposed to trying to cook everything in your indoor kitchens and then keeping the temperature and keeping everything where it wants to be quality-wise in time to get it to your participants or your event attendees outside. So should you have an outdoor event, definitely take a look at some of the outdoor vendors. It will reduce your labor, and often what happens is that you can still make a little bit of money off there, and the vendor also, you have a great partnership with them. Terms and conditions really kind of breaks down all of the legal aspects of this, the liability aspects. Now, this is important. Now, most places that you will work for already have these fairly set in stone, right? These are companies that have existed for a while. They've been burned before by not ensuring that they have the proper legality or the terms and conditions written into their contracts. But you as a manager needs to go over them and go over them with the client as well to ensure they understand that, hey, I need 30, 60, 90 days before the event, I need 10% deposit all of those times. Or if you cancel within 2 weeks of the event, I still require 50% of the payment. These are all the things that we need to make sure that are not only set up, but communicated very fairly. So no one's looking at it and saying, what do you mean? Like, there was a death in the family, I can't come anymore, I have to cancel the event, I want my money back. So make sure that that's done properly, make sure that you are aware of them, and make sure it's communicated to everyone. And then also, once they've signed the BEO, we have to understand it is a binding contract. So you can take legal action against the client if they cancel or refuse to pay, because often what happens is that we do a lot of preparation work in advance. So we might be purchasing some supplies or linens or equipment. We might be purchasing all the food and beverage. We might be turning away other customers that may have used that space. So we are losing profit. So we need to ensure that we also cover ourselves and the success of the business. So that is essentially a BEO. You will see these often throughout your career. It's called a banquet event order, although they do not necessarily only cover banquets. They can cover an entire week or weekend of activities. It is the critical path. It is your itinerary. It is the step-by-step, very monotonous breakdown of everything that needs to be done. And the great thing about this is it's the ultimate checklist. And once you have this checklist, you need to understand how to delegate, because you as an event manager won't be able to do all of it. So how to delegate each separate area, when to check in with them to make sure it's all in line, and then when it's go time, when it's time to actually run the event, it's all hands on deck. So that's a BEO. Couple things I want to talk about before I talk about the midterm. So C2C is going to be next Tuesday. So it's a week today. It's February 23rd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I do not believe anyone has a class over that period of time, or not over the entirety of that time. So some people might have a class at 11. You can definitely go in right at 10 a.m. You can stay there till 11, go to your class. Most classes don't run the entirety of the 3 hours right now, so you probably have time to go back in and also meet some more people. Your 15% assignment, the C2C reflection, is also based off of your participation in this event. As I said before, there are 32 different vendors or employers. They represent probably 100 properties and I would say over 1,000 jobs. You are, for the most part, going into either a co-op or your graduate positions. You're educated. You're a valuable asset to them, and they need good people. And I know that some of these might be frontline jobs, or frontline positions, but they need frontline positions, and they should also pay a fair wage with overtime and everything else, and not take advantage of you. So, as you approach this, I want you to also be attending the event like you would an event manager or coordinator, looking at all the moving parts, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and also writing those notes down and communicating that. I also want you to attend it like a participant. You're looking for a great job. Even if you have a great job lined up, you're still looking for a great job. Never turn down a great opportunity. You can even use that to your own advantage, where you say, I already have a position working for Horseshoe Valley, and they've already offered me $17 an hour working front desk. So unless you can offer me the same or better, like, no offense, I appreciate the offer, but that's kind of where I'm at. And no employer is going to be upset with you about that if you're being honest with them. It's good. So you have a worth to you. You are worth more than often what they might originally offer you. They're trying to protect their own business by not hiring people at a too high of rate that will end up hurting them in the long run. But you're trying to protect yourself, saying, I am worth a certain dollar amount. And if you don't know it now, you'll know it soon. So it might be one of those things where you do have to kind of hang out for a few months before they do realize your worth, because a virtual meet on Hopin might not be enough to say, okay, you're worth $18 and a supervisor, or $20 an hour in a supervisory position, without even seeing you in person. That might be tough to happen. So take a look at their particular employers that I posted up. Do a little research. Find out where they're located, so you're not asking those really basic, stupid questions when you get in to meet with them. So it's like Friday Harbor. You're like, so where in the Muskokas are you? And they're not in Muskokas. They're basically in Innisfil. So they're very close to Barrie. They're 15 minutes. But if you ask me a question like that, I'd say, do you not know anything about this lovely resort? Have you not done any work for yourself? So be prepared. This is your future. This is money in your pocket. There's no better thing to prepare yourself for. So make sure you do that. Okay, sorry. So going to the test. The midterm test is worth 15%. It is on Thursday. Sorry, midterm test is worth 20%. And it is on Thursday, March 4th. So not this Thursday coming up, but the following Thursday. All of the test questions will come from the following areas: our class discussions, any of the PowerPoints that I've posted, the C2C experience, as well as the Verbella experience. It's 80 questions. Now, all 80 questions are either multiple choice, true and false, or a combination of different terminology choices where it's almost matching. As I said, it was 20% of your 20% of your total grade. You will have 2 hours to complete it, and it opens up at 8 a.m. Your in-class notes is a great way for you to study. Reading over your PowerPoints, great way for you to study. 80 questions, they often say about 1 or 2 minutes per question. So if you have to look up every question, you will not have enough time to complete this. So make sure you study a fair amount. There's no reason that you can't revert back to your notes to find the right answer, because the whole idea of this is that you find the right answer, so you know it. I want to see perfect marks. I'm not here to trick you and try to get you to a 70% average as a class. If you can get 100% average as a class, I'm happy as a clam. So look at these questions. Make sure you study in advance. Have things prepared for this test. Notes, the PowerPoint's open. Be able and flexible, willing to be able to, I can close this screen and I can look up these notes and I can come back and answer it. Again, as I said, 2 hours to complete, starts at 8 a.m. It'll close at 11, so like your regular class time. So if you started at 8:30, it'll close at 10:30 on you. If you started at 9 a.m., it'll close at 11. If you started at 9:30 a.m., you will only have an hour and a half, because at 11 a.m. it closes regardless if you still have time left. So that's just so you know. I will also, of course, put up announcements and reminders for all of you. The next couple slides are just a couple random questions. These are some of the questions that you might that you might have. There's also a couple riddles that are fun as well. So these are just some ideas of some of the questions I could ask you. So please be prepared for those. I will post up this PowerPoint in class notes right after I get off here. Other than that, I wish you a lot of success in the career fair as well as on the test. We will not meet live until after reading week at this point, where we will have our first guest speaker, our only guest speaker. So yes, it is 29 minutes into this thing. I hope you watched it all. Good luck, and of course, as always, email me if you have any questions. Cheers.